Mukul, I only wanted to ask you, not contradict you, how long will he be there? Even under the proviso to Section 16?
3 years.
So I agree with you, the law needs to be changed. As the law stands, 3 years, and would that be sufficient?
As the law stands.
For a crime of this nature?
Arnab, I want to I want to say one thing. No, I agree with you. The Act provides, maybe it could be graded between 16 and 17, it could become 3 to 5 years. And between 17 and 18, 5 could go up to 10 years. That is for the legislature to determine. And secondly, I think the first speaker spoke that Article 20 forbids whatever the reform, it cannot apply to this incident. That's what the law is. It may not be palatable. The emotions are fully understandable, but the law stand like this.
Yeah, but you know, I also with great respect among eminent jurists, I feel underqualified. But I've been reading Section 16, Mr. Sorabji and Justice Mudgal. Section 16, the last part says, provided that the period of detention so ordered shall not exceed the maximum period of punishment to which the juvenile could have been sentenced for the offence committed. And that is why I'm asking whether when this is applied in another case in Mumbai, what happens is, I want to get in Subhashini Ali, real life cases. A 17-year-old boy, June 2011, we're talking about Mumbai. Yesterday, Malavika Rajkotia says, give me examples, don't give me examples from America. And today, Malavika Rajkotia, I'm giving only examples from India. Before I come to you, Subhashini Ali, this is what happened. A 17-year-old boy and his friend, also 17, killed their grandmother, 63, in Mumbai, steal jewelry worth 6 lakhs, kill the grandmother. Sent to a remand home 2 days later, released after 6 months. Subhashini Ali. This is happening. This is happening every day. And there's no guarantee these children won't come out and do this again to somebody else's grandmother.
No.
If they can do it to their own, they can do it to somebody else's grandmother.
Yeah. Arnab, I'm listening to what you have to say and all the examples. Yes, we're all very conscious of these things. As far as the age is concerned, I don't think that the age needs to be reduced. But at the same time, I feel that whenever such cases occur, horrendous cases, there is rethinking about the law, there's rethinking about accepted principles. I remember when the Mathura case, rape case occurred in a thana in Maharashtra, the whole question of the onus of proof being shifted to the perpetrator, I think, was incorporated in the Rape Act for the first time. And there was a huge debate and a huge discussion, and many people felt that this was completely wrong, this was against the tenets of jurisprudence, but we fought for it and we got it. So I don't think that any law can be static. There has to be debate, there has to be discussion. Yes. Now, as far as this juvenile law is concerned, there are very big problems with it, especially in a country like ours. We are fighting a gang rape case in Lucknow in which the event occurred in 2005 and the main perpetrator till 2013 has been able to prolong the case, saying that he was a minor at the time of the rape and therefore he should be tried under the Juvenile Act. For 7 years this has gone on, and he has produced fake school certificates which after 7 years have been proved to be fake, and now he has been declared that he was over 18 when the act occurred. So I would like to say that this whole question of dependence on the school certificate is a bit misplaced in our country. School certificates are often forged, and also when people put their children into school, very often they falsify the age. They say that the child is younger, or he or she is younger than actually the child is. So I think that this complete dependence on, please let me finish. So therefore this dependence on school certificates, I think, is misplaced. I think that there should be a bone test, and also I think that the nature of the crime has to come into consideration at some point. This kind of a heinous, horrific crime, I think, cannot be just wished away. The nature of the crime has to be part of our approach to the criminal.
Malavika Rajkotia, you gave examples yesterday. You had a fairly strong observations today coming in from several of our panelists. Are you rethinking your position? I'd like to give you one more example. A 17-year-old driver rapes a minor in a Uttar Pradesh village. For 3 consecutive days, in April 2009 is released on bail because he was a minor at the time of the crime. I want to give you one more example because you said give me Indian examples. I want to take another example which talks about whether it's a discerning act, whether the person is aware. Because yesterday you put an argument of, many things that they are not aware. Now, there's a thief turned burglar arrested in March 2012 for 25 cases of burglaries. He's lodged in Tihar jail right now. By the police officer's account, at 17, he would boast of 10 years of experience, hardcore criminal experience in robbery. But the police can't act against him because he's a juvenile. Apprehended, every time let off because he's a juvenile. So by the time this fellow is 17 and a half, the system, instead of reforming that person, gives the person the leeway of getting away. Where's the counter to that, Malavika?
Yeah. See, firstly, let us understand the position of juveniles and why all this legislation and international legislation was started in the first place. The point is that at a particular age, as young adolescents or young adults, they are particularly vulnerable to a number of their own body changes that are happening, their mind, their desire to please or gain the approval of whichever adult they are in the custody of. No, just a minute. I mean, wasn't a ground rule that I have to finish? Somebody has to
please
finish.
complete. Please. My request to Ranjana Kumari, please let her complete. Subhash, let her complete. I'll come to you after that. After this, I'm opening up the debate. Yes, go ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Go ahead.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay, now, given in that background, there was all of this kind of legislation, including international conventions that were there, keeping in mind the state of mind of juveniles and their particular fragility and vulnerability at a particular age. Now, in the context of this case, as Mr. Sorabji says, it's not really a number game or etc. He says. Now, it has been found that it needs to be a number game. It is about when you become an adult, when the bones have ossified, when a mind...
Is there no... These hardened criminals, they're completely unaware? You believe they don't know what they are doing?
I haven't finished.
Are they conscious of what they are doing?
In all those circumstances, one sec. In all those circumstances, now for example, if they are not allowed to vote till a particular age, till 21, they are not allowed to drink till later.
No, 18.
And there are many reasons why they are.
Okay.
Let's just finish it. Now, having said which, today we are in a situation where, because of increasing rate of crime by juveniles and them getting away with it with seeming impunity because of the laws as they exist, yes, revisit it. But rather than straight away, like Mr. Swami yesterday said, make an example of him and hang him. Just a minute. In those, it needs to be looked at.
I'm giving concrete examples.
Never forget. I'm giving
concrete examples before I come. You're getting a lot of rebuts, by the way, Malavika.
Are not going to.
Malavika, you're getting a lot of rebuts. I need to let. There are 4 hands right now. 4 hands going up who want to contradict what you're saying. I want to give one more example to our viewers. 8-year-old Satyam kidnapped, sodomized by 2 15-year-olds in Patna in May 2009. When the child started crying, the boy strangled him to death, stuffed his body in a polythene bag, then made ransom calls. Arrested on May 30th, let out of the remand home, having served a period of sentence in a reformatory. Not even 2 or 3 years have passed. Today, I'm asking whether these boys going out, whether we are completely convinced they are reformed or they've got the punishment that they deserve. 3 hands go up there.
Exactly.
1 minute. 3 hands going up there. Ranjana Kumari first. Ranjana Kumari first.
The position, Arnab, is again a failure of state and civil society where delinquency is on the increase.
Then acquit them.
Okay, Soli Sorabji for 1 minute. Soli Sorabji said, sir. Soli Sorabji is responding to you, Malavika. Soli Sorabji first, ma'am. Ranjana coming to you.
I missed my chance.
I know you will not miss your chance. Soli Sorabji said something else to you. You took that example. Soli Sorabji.
Give her the chance. Don't let her miss it. Malavika, you use a very good expression.
Yes, Mr.
The fragility of their intelligence. Correct? I agree with you. What is the assumption, what is the basis to think that will be at a particular age? Is it not possible that a person, a young person of 15, would be fully capable of knowing the nature of the act, the consequences of his acts, and will do with deliberate motive? So why do you assume that if he's 15, we will see, no, he won't be able to do it? So I myself find this fixation of a particular age rather irrational. It should really depend upon whether the so-called juvenile, I'm not on medical certificate and others, that's not the facts of the case, but the juvenile really fully well knew what he was doing. So if that is so, then why should he not face the same consequences as an adult? In a case like this, a hypothetical case, that the cases that Arnab is given. But you are saying society, in that case you acquit them.
If you are going to leave that much of an element of discretion and a gap with regard to how juveniles are to be managed, and then to club them with adults, that's the cause of concern. The whole purpose is only so that they come back reformed. It has to work towards, we are talking of reform movements for adults.
I want to ask you today, Malavika, before two hands went up, I have to go to the others. I'm giving only example after example. Yesterday I was told you give American examples on Newsa. Today I have a lot of Indian examples. I find a very interesting example. A 14-year-old boy rapes and kills a 4-year-old girl. Let off on the condition that he will spend 10,000 rupees on his psychiatric treatment. This has been said by somebody.
Ridiculous.
1 minute. Who will take guarantee for this boy when he grows up? You spend 10,000 rupees on your psychiatric treatment.
Arnab, that's a ridiculous judgment.
The boy will feel.
And that's not the law.
No, but I am telling you, this is how it is being applied, and this is how this whole juvenile. Kavita, please listen. Either real cases, this happened in Thane, in Maharashtra.
No, there are two things. One is the law, the other is the way it is being applied.
What you say to the mother and father of that 4-year-old girl who have been killed, and who say that the 14-year-old boy will pay for 10,000 rupees. Tomorrow that boy comes out after 1 year, commits another case like this, then he'll say, well, pay another 10,000 rupees.
I agree
and
with
each time I commit a murder before the age of 18, I will pay 10,000 rupees.
You're talking of...
Each time I'll say I want to be reformed.
That's as ridiculous, Arnab, that's as ridiculous as an adult rapist being told by a judge that you marry the victim. Now, ridiculous judgments are not unusual, but the law is there. Then it comes to sagacious application of it, keeping in mind all the interests that are involved.
Okay, now two counters came to you from Subhashini Ali. And before Subhashini Ali, I'm getting Ranjana Kumari back. Ranjana Kumari, please.
Me too.
Yes, Ranjana Kumari.